using this clock. I'm going to call this meeting of the Mountain View Westman School District Board of Trustees to order at 6 p.m. and ask for a roll call.
Greg Coladonato.
I'm gonna go that way.
Bill Lambert.
Jose Gutierrez Jr.
Stephen Nelson.
Ellen Wheeler, let the record reflect that all 5 trustees are present. We'll move on to item 2, opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning items on the closed session agenda.
Alex, point of order. On item 1, there is A, which is roll call, and item B, approval of.
Approval of agenda. You are correct, trustee Nelson. All right, so I will go back to item 1B, approval of agenda. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by trustee Lambert, seconded by trustee Gutierrez. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have an amendment. I move to amend the closed item session on 3B, which is conferences, real property negotiators having to do with Easy Street, the German International School. And the motion is move to amend the closed session item 3B to discuss the German school building plans in public before we go into price and terms closed discussion.
I have a point of information.
Yes?
If that motion passed, what would happen? He said, talk about the property plans before talking about the terms. The terms happen in closed session, which we would go into now. Would that mean we talk about the project, the design before the closed session? Like at
It could be
6:05?
done- It could be done either way.
So can I interrupt this a little bit? I think this item is moot. Is that correct, Superintendent Rudolph?
Correct.
So
Pardon?
we
Why
are,
is it
yeah,
moot?
She's going to tell you.
yes.
Okay.
We are not going to hold this item today because
Oh.
the one party is not ready to discuss this. So we are going to delete item 3B, and the only item in the closed session is going to be 3A, Conference with Labor Negotiators, California School Employees Association.
Fine.
Okay?
Did I miss that email or?
So just for clarification, it's still they're actually in Germany right now and they haven't got back to us. And so when we planned this, we were under the assumption that we would have more information and
Yeah.
and 2 weeks have passed and they just haven't. So part of this is we had to agendize it previously thinking that they would be able to get us information. They haven't been able to get us information. Therefore, it just needs to be pulled from the meeting.
I think this might be their spring break this week.
Administrators are never on spring break.
So,
Superintendent Rudolph, I thank you for explaining that. And it's always better to put something on the agenda and then take it off if
Then the
things
other way
don't
around.
go. Then, yeah.
okay, there's a motion to approve the agenda with the deletion of item 3B. Any
I
other
second it.
discussion? No, it's already been seconded.
Oh, that's right.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll move on to item 2, opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning items on the closed session agenda. Is there a member of the public here wishing to address the board on the closed session agenda item? Seeing none, I will adjourn this open session at 6:05. And we're about to have a Pledge of Allegiance with some students leading the way. Is that correct? All right. So Principal Santiago, will you?
Would you like me to introduce our?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Come on up. I will face this way. We have Nicholas, he's in second grade at Faircop. We have Alicia, she's in kindergarten at Faircop. We have Daisy, kindergarten at Faircop. And Simbali, who will be leading our pledge, fifth grader at Faircop.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very nice.
That was enthusiastic.
It was. And
Okay.
And Principal Santiago has a school showcase that's after consent. And because we have so many teachers in the room for our certificated staff recommended for permanent status, Principal Santiago has volunteered to move his school showcase to after the certificated staff recommendations for permanent status. So without objection, that's what we're going to do. So we're moving the item 9A up, and it would be after the consent item. So we're moving on to item A, consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by trustee Lambert, seconded by trustee Gutierrez, that we approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, then, since we are not doing a school showcase right now, we are going to skip ahead to review and action and do item 9A, certificated staff recommended for permanent status. I thought we were just switching the two items, but if you'd like to do,
I think we have communications from the union president also.
yes, we do. So would you like to do your communication before the teachers or after? That would be perfect. Okay, so instead of 9A before that, we will move around. We'll do item 7, communications. We'll do employee organizations, then district committees, and then superintendent. And then I think we will go ahead and do community comments then. So communications, employee organizations, is there representatives from the teachers union wishing to address the board?
Hello. Okay, there it is.
Hello.
Okay, sorry. So my message is for the amazing teachers that are being tenured this evening. On behalf of all of our members, I want to congratulate all of you for your hard work and dedication in pursuit of your career in education. You've made so many personal sacrifices, all towards improving the lives of children and to improving and providing them for the opportunities to succeed. And so I want to share one of my favorite quotes with you all. A good teacher is like a candle. It consumes itself to light the way for others. Again, congratulations and have an amazing year. Take care.
And do we have a representative from our classified union wishing to address us? Seeing none, we'll move on to district committees. We have one committee to report on. I don't know if somebody else wants to report on a different committee. So the committee that trustee Lambert or I could report on is the school attendance advisory task force. And I don't know if Dr. Rudolph, you were planning on reporting on that yourself. So I will cede this to you if you'd like to do it.
It's an item
On the agenda.
on the agenda, so I'll be talking about it
Okay,
a
great.
little bit
So
later.
So is there any other district committee, any trustee wants to report on? Seeing none, we'll move on to items 7C, superintendent report.
Good evening. I'm going to talk about two things today. Or actually three. So first I know they're not watching, but I got to give a shout out to my daughters. Today is their birthday, September 15th. So they're 16. And so I want to highlight that.
Do you mind if you could tell them to do it later. Do you mind if we sing them happy birthday and they could watch it online?
Sure.
All right.
Sure. I don't mind at all.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
All right. Well, thank y'all. I'll make sure I send that clip to them. And so today is also a different day that I want to highlight, and then I'll talk about the reason why we have such a packed house here, which is our teachers. So today is actually the start of Latino Heritage Month. And so for the next month, all the schools will be making an effort to recognize a significant portion of our population. And so today I wanted to talk about a significant individual from Mountain View who actually used to be a student. And I need to preface this by saying I do understand that he is technically not Latino. However, he is and has been recognized as a real strong voice for the Latino Americans. He has been recognized through La Raza. He has won multiple awards, and he is a student from our community. And so I believe that he deserves recognition for this. So Jose Antonio Vargas is a Filipino American who went to Crittenden Middle School and graduated from Mountain View High School. And his story is actually very unique. He came here when he was a early teen. And his story, his journey began when he actually went to go get his license. And he found out that he was an illegal immigrant. And that's where his journey sort of starts, right? So he uses his Filipino passport and other documents to obtain a license. And then, of course, for those of you who have been in this community, you know that he eventually gets arrested and he gets held for immigration. But what's really beyond that is that after he gets out of McAllen, Texas, he then starts a real journey of making sure that he starts a fight for undocumented individuals, and which culminates with him being on the face of Time magazine. He ends up winning a Pulitzer Prize to talk about his own personal journey. He wins the Sidney Award as well as the Freedom to Write Award. I actually just started following him on Twitter, and he actually follows me back, so I'll make sure I tweet something about him today. But he is an advocate for the DREAM Act, which we know plays a big role in California and states like Texas and Miami, places in New York, which have a high number of undocumented or illegal or immigrants, or whichever word we want to use. But he is a constant advocate for making sure that we have a good pathway for kids to not only get education, but also to get legal, to become a naturalized citizen. And so I think it's worth noting, even though we could pick a lot of other Latinos to talk about, I think it's worth noting that here's a kid that grew up in our community, that was inspired by our teachers, and that really made a difference. And he actually, in his bio, he talks about, it was actually his high school English teacher that encouraged him to go on this path. And so for this meeting, I just want to highlight Jose Antonio Vargas and the teachers who are still here that impacted him in our district, as well as his affinity for Mountain View. And I think is a great way to start Latino Heritage Month, by recognizing him as a person who has really made tremendous strides. So I know he's not watching this, but you should
tweet him a link. Tweet him a link.
We will. We'll tweet him a link.
Okay. And
so that, the interesting part about this, and I said this a second ago, is that his journey starts after he tries to get his license, but it starts with a high school English teacher. And I think there are times when we forget our impact, us teachers, right? You know, it's been a while since I've been in the classroom, right? And I see some of my kids have found me on Facebook, and they have kids, which is really interesting. And we forget about the impact that we've had on people, right? We forget that there are these seminal moments that really make a difference in a person's life. And we all know one teacher who has had that impact. And we can talk about them with like, we know it. We can't really explain why they were a great teacher, but we know it when we see them. And today we have the fortune of recognizing a group of individuals who have really worked hard. And I remember those first 2 years are probably the hardest 2 years that you're ever going to face, because you're trying to prove your value. And we in our district have a very high standard by what we accept before we grant a teacher tenure. And these individuals who are in front of us today have exceeded that standard. And so I'm just honored to be in their presence. I am so proud of each and every one of them. And I am grateful that I get the opportunity to work with them, even though we don't see each other all the time, on a day-to-day basis. And so I just want to commend each and every one of you who are getting tenure or earning tenure or who have tenure. And then also the other individuals who are here to support them, because their journey is also your journey. And whether you're a colleague, a parent, a friend, you truly are a part of the reason why they are successful. And all of you definitely are a reason why our kids, just like Jose Antonio Vargas, are successful. And so thank you so much for everything that you do day in and day out for our kids.
I would like to congratulate you too, and I get to give you a present as well. I won't unwrap each of them, but each of you is getting a little symbol of your life and your days and your nights and your weekends. So what we're going to do, I will call your name. The board is going to come
He
up.
wants us to take
You are
action.
going to shake their hand and receive their congratulations on your accomplishment, because it's really exciting. And
Sorry, yeah, we got a little overzealous. Sorry, we wanted to really celebrate the moment. We actually need to let the board take action, and then
I move that the Board of Trustees grant these certificate staff members permanent status in the Mountain View Wisman School District, beginning with the 2016-2017 school year.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved by trustee Gutierrez, seconded by trustee Lambert, that the board approve the resolution. Let's see, that the board recognize teachers who have successfully completed their second probationary year in the district. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. There.
so we will begin. Are you all set? We'll wait till that gets up. On my list, you're alphabetical, so you can plan ahead. By last name. So Titus Aries, congratulations. Samantha, you got a new last name. Samantha Azofefa. Well, congratulations to her. Shamai Bassett. Alex Bonhoff. Stephanie Costa. Nicole Data. Jacqueline Diaz. Nawaka Fletcher Perry. Heidi Galassi. Valeria Goebel. Marissa Hamaguchi. Matthew Hillman. Heejung Kim. Lisa Nita. Sandra Sainz Malvido. Mona Salahi. Laura Shaw. Another new name, Jenna Tipoletti. Congratulations on your wedding, too. Teresa Tran. Lily Zhu. That's our list. Congratulations, everyone. So we need to do a class picture. We have to do a class picture, so you're going up with the board to take your picture. There will be a photograph.
Okay, get closer. Closer. Hold up your apple. Hold up. Okay, everybody who's over there needs to come over here. Over here. Squeeze it.
You need a bigger phone.
Jose? Okay, everybody say pickles. All right.
I think there's a camera over there. Everybody look that way. Wait, no, the other camera. There you go, in the back. Thank y'all.
Just enough, that's enough.
We're going to take a quick break. Yeah, no, they're running out the door. So we have thanks to our wonderful food services department, they were able to create some great cupcakes for us. So we're going to take a quick break so that everybody can grab those and sort of talk with each other.
Supply and demand, baby.
In the northwest, those regional brewers want to use Northwest Club. And it turns out the ones I don't know.
No. One time I accidentally made alcohol, but I've never drunk anything I've made. Okay. Okay.
You're right about knowing this. They should turn the camera around. Yes, it isn't just all. Always take a chance as soon as you can. You know that more than I do.
Sorry. Okay, what? Yeah, I don't remember. I think she called a recess. Ah, right. Okay, there's still cupcakes left.
Take some home for your kids.
All right.
You got the cupcake.
There's a bunch left. You can get one too.
I'm going to call this meeting of the Mountain View Westman School District Board of Trustees back to order at 7:30 after that lively informal reception. And we'll go back to item 6, school showcase, where Torikoff Principal Ryan Santiago will share information about Torikoff School. So take it away. No, you need the microphone on.
I think so. There you
Yeah.
go. Okay, perfect. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Board of Trustees, for giving Thurkoff this opportunity tonight to share some highlights of our school year last year and some of the successes we had. And thank you to the district office staff for also providing this time during the board meeting. Myself, parents at our school and our staff really appreciate this opportunity. So thank you. Before I start the slides, I'd just like to kind of give you a background of what these slides will be about. Thurkoff Elementary is really proud of the successes and the growth that we made last year. But what we're really proud about is the stronger community that we are building within Thurkoff, with parents and teachers coming together. We're also really proud about, like I said, the student achievement that happened last year and how our teachers were really focused and student driven. And I hope that you see that in this slide presentation tonight, our community coming together with parents and teachers with one common focus, and that's student achievement. All right. So our first one, so building a stronger community, and if you'll see this, it says inclusive and supportive culture, right? And so that's actually one of our new goals in our strategic plan 2021. So ensure that all communication, collaboration, and daily work begins and ends with the students in mind. We started that last year, and we're excited to see that as part of our strategic plan going on for the next few years as well. Some things I would like to highlight is we had a very active and strong ELAC, school site council, and PTA. And one thing that our PTA president was always saying last year, which made me smile a lot, but she said that she really last year wanted to put the unity in community, right? And which is fun, right? But it really symbolizes what we were doing last year. We had joint meetings between our communities and our committees. So like you would see like school site council, PTA committees actually coming together, having joint meetings, ELAC and school site council working together on projects. And so we had overlapping memberships. Summer Marshall, which will be coming up shortly to share some of her experiences of supporting our school, was on our school site council and our PTA. We also had other parents, if you see on the far right, Godofredo, ELAC, and PTA. So we're really trying to build a bridge, a connection between the things that we're doing at our school. And last year, I really believe that not only were our staff leaders, but our parents were leaders in our school community as well to support our student achievement. All right, and what I would like to do is just kind of highlight some examples. So in our ELAC meeting, we always ask the parents, what do you need? What would you like? What can we support you with? One thing they kept on saying over and over again is we don't understand reclassification. And you'll see in the next slide that because this was a parent-led event, we put on a reclassification night, which I'll share shortly. And it also was how to support students with reading and writing. That's where our parents were really wanted the support. And it was parent-driven and parent-led. All committees providing input into the educational initiatives. We made a priority to, during our ELAC committees, school site council committees, and PTAs, to really get the feedback and the input, how we are going to develop our school site plan last year, and we're continuing that this year. So the committees collaborating together on community outreach and student education. So here's the next picture of our ELAC Parent Ed Night. This is one of our educational nights. We had probably about 50 parents come, and this was because of ELAC's real encouragement to get this going. You'll see Phyllis Rogers in there, which was our ELL director last year. She came and presented. We had someone from the library come and speak to our parents about the library system, and then also some of our reading structures that we have in place at Thurkoff Elementary. Okay, the next one is just building a stronger community. Last year, we went for a huge walkathon. In the past, we've had some walkathons. It was a nice fundraiser, but it was just a walk-a-thon, right? We wanted to really build this and make it a community event. And ELAC and PTA really, truly came together to make this a success. It wasn't not only a success, you know, with the amount of people that turned out. It wasn't only a success with the funds that they were able to generate to support our school, but the success was when you see on the left-hand side, parents giving each other high fives, kids smiling, parents getting some pupusas and other food like that, and then sitting down on a bench, hanging out and talking and really building that community and that strong connection. There's a quote that a teacher sent after it says, "Just wanted to share how impressed I was with the walkathon today. I felt it was a huge success, the best event I've attended in my time at Thurkoff." Also on the PTA window on the door outside the room that they use, it says, "Thank you PTA for a wonderful walkathon. And we got many comments on just how connected that parents felt to their school that they kind of haven't felt in a while. Building a strong community. We are really thankful for the district for providing Therkoff some extra money to develop a new plan and a new vision. And part of that process was we invited Cambridge Education out to help support us in making a new vision for our school. And in this, teachers and parents help drive that. And I have Summer Marshall here, one of our parents, that would like to talk about that process and maybe a little bit more. And then Jane Corpos, oh, there she is. I thought she walked outside. She had a baby in her hand. So they might share a couple words on how the parent community really supported our students this year.
Good evening. How are you guys doing? All hopped up on cupcakes and water. All right. My name is Summer Marshall, as Mr. Santiago said. I am a Therkoff parent. My son is in first grade now. I am a special ed parent. I am the current PTA secretary, and I serve on this school site council at Therkoff now. My journey with Therkoff began before the first day of kindergarten, when I came to the library to have a IEP meeting with Mr. Santiago and the rest of their team. And I felt welcome and respected from the very beginning. And my son, I knew, would find success here. I continued to have a wonderful experience with the school from the first day of school on throughout the rest of kindergarten and the first day of first grade. And I expect many more wonderful first days of school for my son and my daughter, who's now 3. I really did realize that Therkoff has a lot going for it, like along with their leadership and their staff and their awesome Cheetah students. Their greatest asset is its diverse community. And I've seen so much of it just in my brief year and a few months with the school. The first big example that I experienced was a program called Cheetah Cubs that our community has, where on Wednesdays after drop-off, parents are encouraged to bring their Cheetah Cubs, the young students who are probably going to go to Therkoff when they get to kindergarten, to come. And there were infants there. There were, 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and they all got to experience this time together. But even more importantly is the parents got to talk with each other, and I was able to get to know people that I would never probably have talked to in the hallway. And it was really amazing for me to see the different people who are always involved with our school. And it's started friendships with me that I treasure, and my daughter had a really fun time with it too. I later joined the school site council and also the PTA, and I serve on both of those now. But the biggest part of our community experience that I'm thankful for is the opportunity to become involved in the planning sessions that the Cambridge group had on campus when we were planning our mission and vision for our campus, because it was inspirational for me to see parents and administrators and staff and teachers all working together passionately, thinking about ways that we can improve our school going forward. And our mission and our vision were so much of a driving force for them. And the plan that came from it is really cohesive and clear. And Mr. Santiago has explained it so many times to different groups, and I've been there because I'm on all these different committees. And every time, everyone really can tell what he means, and the staff knows, and the parents know, and it makes me really proud to be part of this community. So thank you so much, Mr. Santiago, and thank you, Board of Trustees, for helping our community at Therkoff have the honor and the opportunity to improve the lives of our students and keep them in mind every single day. Thanks.
Summer's so great. I'm such a fan. So I'm Jane Corpos. I've got 2 kids at Therkoff. You met Daisy during the pledge. She's in kindergarten, and my oldest is in first. And I had my little cheetah cub on my hip. I was trying to buy her silence with a cupcake, but failed. So she was going to be a prop. She's going to be a prop later on. We'll see. So anyway, I just wanted to tell a little story about how Fairclough has impacted my life, how being a part of this community has been so great for me. There's a language barrier between myself and a lot of the other moms who speak primarily Spanish. And one of the great joys for me since I've started with my kids at Fairclough is, perceiving how this barrier becomes permeable as time goes on. And, we communicate in so many ways. We communicate through laughter, and we communicate through like rolling our eyes and mock exasperation. And we communicate with our babies. That's why I was going to have her here, like every day, the babies, I love the babies. There's so many of them, and we kind of like hold them up to each other and make them have a little baby conference. And we just share these moments, right? At drop off, we share these moments, and then we share more moments at pickup, and they add up to something really meaningful to me. It's like they're little, right? But it adds up. And I really care about all of these families, and I feel like I receive that care back, and I care about their children, and they care about mine, and we've just become constants in each other's lives. And I didn't really have that community, in the Bay Area before we started at Fairclough, and it's been really special. And last week, a mom invited us. She invited us through her eldest daughter to her youngest daughter's birthday party. She also has 3 girls, and I've been kind of like admiring them from afar, like I like that other family with the 3 girls. And I just like glowed with happiness when she invited me to this party. And it's like my children and her children, they don't have a language barrier, right? They just chat and they goof off, and they've been playing this thing called chaos tag, which just seems awful to me. Or like this like tag hide and seek hybrid that I just want like to have nothing to do with. Like I can't watch. It's so awful. It gives me anxiety. But, I'm so grateful to this mom for reaching out across the social, cultural, linguistic divide, because I think we all know that it's a lot easier not to do that. And it may seem like a little thing, it's just an invitation to a first grader's birthday party at a park. But I was thinking about it, and it's just like, it's not a little thing. It's like, it's everything, right? Because this is the work of life. It's learning the stories of other humans and moving beyond the stereotypes. And I'm so glad I chose Fairclough. And this is how I want to raise my kids. And go Cheetahs.
So, yeah, thank you, Jane. And thank you, Summer. And we just heard 2 stories, right? And those are 2 stories that are impactful in the life of Jane and her cheetah and cheetah cubs, and Summer and her kids. And those stories happen every day at Fairclough. Some pictures I didn't even put up, but I encourage you guys all to come. You come out right before school starts. We'll have music playing. We'll have parents doing jump ropes with the kids. And it's just a warm, friendly, welcoming community. Along with the parent community, just as important is our community with our teaching staff. So I'd like to highlight our teaching staff as well. If I can, I think it froze. There we go. Thank you. Let's see, I think one more. All right, thank you. So academic achievement for all, right? And closing the achievement gap. Those are 2 other goals in our strategic plan, and things that, we were definitely working on last year and excited to see back in our strategic plan this year as we continue. We had a school site plan. We had to focus on student achievement and instructional practices. So at Fairclough, I think one of the reasons that we were really successful, we had a goal and we had a plan. And we kept on looking back at that goal and looking back at that plan. School quality review back in October when we first worked with the Jalila, she really showed us our successes, but she also told us our opportunities for improvement. And we didn't hide from those. We took those and said, hey, how could we make our school better by implementing some of these practices and put those into our site plan? So again, we're thankful for the district staff for providing that opportunity for our staff to look at the data. And then academic achievement for all. We were a community of teachers coming together, and these are the things that we focused on. We focused on learning objectives and being really focused in our instruction. How are students learning? How are we checking for understanding during and at the end? We had professional learning throughout the year. We never thought we knew everything, but we thought we can learn from each other. We were always focused on how the students were talking in the classroom using academic vocabulary. peer collaboration, and then monitoring student achievement. All these things kind of tied in together and was a real true pleasure, and so proud to be able to work with the teachers at Therkoff collaboratively to focus on these instructional practices to focus on student achievement. And this was the outcome. I put this at the end because, yes, these are numbers that show growth, but I wanted you to see the actual stories that impacted these numbers. So in 2015, on our SBAC, we had 29% proficient or advanced. In 2016, 45%. We had a 16% increase in, thank you, in ELA. Our math, the same, 24% to 38%, a 14% increase, which is, thank you. I could not be more proud. And this was the result of a community really coming together. And I just want to say thank you to parents, community partners, teachers, and staff for all coming together to make last year a success. I'm looking forward to continuing our partnership to build an even stronger community and greater student achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Santiago. If any trustees want to make a very brief comment, you're welcome to do so at this time.
Principal Santiago, thank you for your excellent work. You've had great success. You and your teachers and your parents and your students have all worked together well. Is there anything that, so the board a couple years ago allocated money to Castro and to Therkoff to help jumpstart changes and figure out how to get to where we want to be. Would you have any suggestions for what the board do next to keep us on this trajectory, or do you have it covered from here?
No, definitely do not have it covered, but I feel like we are on the right path. So last year we used it for really vision and mission statement and starting to build that initiatives along with when the strategic objective was happening. One thing I'm very fortunate about is that we're learning together, right? And it's hard for me to say what could the board help with, but what I'm really appreciating right now is this new model that we have as a team where the principals will go out to different schools and we'll be able, and we're doing walkthroughs and learning from each other. And then we're also really looking at each other's data and organizing and really looking to see what implementation is being successful in other places and how can it help Therkoff as well. So just the collaboration piece is what's really helping us, and the time to use and plan.
You have a kid, a child at
Yes, I do.
Therkoff. What grade?
First grade.
Okay, so you're going to be there at least 5 more years.
Yes. Oh, I got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. I can trust that you can get this done then during your tenure.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, anybody, Trustee Nelson?
Yeah, I'm really glad you're working on the school site council. And last year, of course, I attended your school site council several times, and I think I mentioned to the board that I was very impressed.
Thank you.
How that done. And I don't know who in the district office is helping you with that get even better, if it's possible. But certainly the former principal of Montaloma was extremely good about doing that too. Her school site council was excellent. So I hope you should make sure you touch base with her.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Superintendent Root. Oh,
I'll be
Trustee
quick.
Gutierrez.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Thank you so much, Ryan. Great job. So what I've noticed when I've been on campus is always that you have team spirit, right? I see that with the DLAC parents, with the ELAC parents. I see that with the school site parents, with the PTA. And one thing that strikes me is that it's not just the parents, but the teachers. And what I like is the collaborative process of exchanging ideas, because it's not just teachers versus parents or parents versus teachers or we're doing this wrong or what. No. It's a community approach to learning.
Yes.
And that aspect, that pedagogy is key, I think, because that helps us to problem solve quicker. It helps us to bridge differences one way or another. And then at that moment, that's when the realization comes of, this is what we're learning, right? Whether it be English, math, or just what community means in general. So I'm excited to see what happens next year and the year after. And I thank you for your leadership.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Gutierrez.
So before we say goodbye to you, I need to ask you if you want to say something about chess club.
Okay. So chess club, we're really excited. We have a really strong chess club at Therkoff Elementary that meets on Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings. That's put on by one of our parents also, Mr. Ruzon. And we've been able to host the last couple chess club tournaments at Mountain View Wisman School District. Looking forward to next year's. And it's just exciting to see all the chess players come together and have a fun time with their chess tournament that happens later in the school year. But yeah, our chess club is on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent Rudolph.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, I love going to Therkoff. It's such an amazing environment, such a welcoming environment. They work exceptionally hard to make sure that everyone feels included. And I think that is indicative of the results. The teachers are working hard, the parents are working hard, Mr. Santiago is working hard. Everybody is really invested. And I think, it's about time that their investment starts paying off and we can see the fruits of their labor. And I'm just fortunate to be a witness to the great things that are happening over there. So congratulations and definitely keep up the great work that you all are doing.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to go back to our regular agenda order and we'll go to item 9B as in boy, resolution 1615.9/16, Proposition 55, the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016.
Thank you. As the board is aware, Proposition 30 starts the expiration in June of 16. So part of it's already started. Those taxes are expired. And the remaining taxes that are generated from Proposition 30 expire in June of 18. This resolution is from CSBA, the California School Boards Association, in support of Proposition 55, which would create a new tax structure essentially to replace that temporary tax of Prop 30. And staff recommends approval to support. For us as a school district, Proposition 30, we get approximately $1 million a year in revenue.
Thank you. And before I ask for a motion, I'm going to ask if any members of the public wish to address the board on this item. Okay, excuse me, Trustee Nelson. I'm going to ask for a motion and then I'll open discussion and
I had
action.
a question.
So we will do discussion after a motion. So can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Trustees adopt Resolution 1615.9/16, Proposition 55, the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016.
Okay, it's been moved by Trustee Gutierrez, seconded by Trustee Lambert, that the board approve Resolution 1615.9/16, Proposition 55, the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016. Trustee Nelson, you have a question?
Yeah,
or
I had
comment?
a point of information. I vaguely remember that we already passed a resolution before this got a number on it, saying that we supported this because it had a name, the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act. I thought we already had a previous motion a couple of months ago when it was already decided it was going to go on the ballot. Is that correct?
So, Mr. Farazan, I was thinking of his last name, asked the board to support a letter that was going to go to Governor Brown to make sure that this was actually a part of, or that this would be on the ballot. And so now this is the official resolution for it being on the ballot. So yes, you are correct that.
So we already passed something
You
previously.
sent a letter of support for this very same thing, yes.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I thought we had
Yes.
asked that to done.
Yes.
We'd already done it, but the wording was different.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
It didn't have a proposition or anything else. It was just simply a letter of support for this particular item.
Well, it had a name, the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act, but we didn't know which proposition
Correct.
number it was.
Correct.
I have a question.
That was my question.
Okay.
I'll
Trustee
have a comment
Coladonado?
after.
My question is either Dr. Rudolph or Dr. Clark, do you know, is Jerry Brown a supporter of this measure?
I don't know of late, but I do know that he was anti-taxes because he feels this tax was temporary and we would be increasing the wall of debt in California. But that was months ago, so I don't know where he is over the summer.
Yeah, it's my information that he has not taken a formal position on this measure.
He abstains.
Yeah.
He's not opposed or in favor.
Correct.
And the old Prop 30 did have the word temporary
Correct.
in the title, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. And he said something like, we just need this to get through the Great Recession.
That was the campaign.
That was that's how he got it passed.
That was the campaign of the state of how to get passed. It was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
temporary tax.
He's Schwarzenegger. Some comment.
Any other questions or comments by the board?
Yeah. My experience working with these kinds of things is if this is the standard template and form letter, here's how education handles it. When CSBA or somebody sends out a form letter and an organization like the State Board of Education starts getting the same form letter 168 times or 500 times, you sort of don't, you get appended as just a number. Oh, we got 503 versions of this thing from the CSBA. It, I think, makes much less impact on the governor or the State Board of Education than if it is an individually worded letter. Anybody who's a politician or a board member knows when you get the same letter 5 times, it's a lot of people who are just filling out a form letter. When you get a letter that explains a nuance or a different reason or something else, it's really when you have to stop and read. Now, of course, the governor doesn't read all these, but I can be pretty assured that this just goes in as a tick on a number. It's sort of like one of the political places where you say, should this judge not be reelected? And it's just a number. It's a lot different than a letter to the editor. It's a lot different than, who did we send the previous letter to?
We originally sent the letter to Governor Brown, and I neglected to say, I'd
Ms.
like
Loga,
Ms.
do we
Loga
have a
to
timer?
time
Sorry.
our comments, and these should be 1-minute comments. And I would like to add a comment here, which is this is not a letter to the governor, because I often agree with your basic sentiments, but this is going to be, it's a resolution in favor of the act. And hopefully, if it passes, the governor will actually implement it.
If the people vote for it, the governor doesn't have something one way or the other. What I'm saying is I think this is redundant. We've already done this. It doesn't matter if it says Proposition 15.
And I'm saying that the distinguishing point of a letter versus this resolution is this is for the public's sake. It's not for the governor's sake.
We adopted a public resolution and we said we were going to send that letter to the governor.
I
I'd
don't
like
think
to
it's
speak to-
worth
No need to argue.
talking about this some more. Trustee Coladonado, 1 minute.
Okay. So if you go to Ballotpedia for Prop 55, it lists school boards and college boards that have supported this measure. And we're not in it because we haven't supported this measure. So if we, and by the way, this page doesn't show what our resolution is. It's just yes or no. And so by passing this, we end up in, maybe we'll end up on this web page, and other people will say Mountain View School District supports it, which they currently can. So it's certainly not redundant.
How did Ballotpedia get that?
I don't know, but they can't put us in that list because we did not have a resolution saying we support Prop 55.
So
Right.
when the
Right.
board chooses to take action and a vote, and if it's for the affirmative and we adopt the resolution, we contact CSBA and say that the Mountain View Wisman School District took action and approved the resolution, and we will be on that list of 503 districts across the state of California who approve and support the resolution, Prop 55.
Good research, Trustee Coladonado.
Thank you.
I'd like to call for the vote All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, so 4 votes in favor, 0 in opposition, and 1 in abstention. Do you have that, Ms. Lilga? Okay, so now we're going to move on to item C. So this is a hearing. So public hearing and resolution number 1610.9/16, resolution on sufficiency of pupil textbook and instructional materials. So I'm going to adjourn us right now from our regular meeting at 8:01 and open up a public meeting on this item at 8:01 and 10 seconds. And what I do, close it and then open it. So I think we are,
Yes.
did I do it correctly? Yeah, exactly. So before we do discussion, I'm going to ask for public comment. Seeing none, Superintendent Rudolph, you're up at the dais and it looks like you want to say more about this.
No, this is our annual public hearing. So to make sure that we provide sufficient materials to all of our students, especially our EL students, and that it has to meet the state's guidelines, whether it's the current standards or the future standards. And so currently we meet the guidelines in terms of having materials that are aligned to the state standards. And we are currently looking at next generation science standards with history coming next also. So we're well ahead. If you see for science is 2018, we're well ahead of the game in terms of the adoption of materials that are aligned to the new California core standards.
Thank you. Not sure how we'll do this, but I'm going to close the public hearing at 8:03 and reopen the regular meeting of the Mountain View Westman School District Board of Trustees at 8:03 and 10 seconds and ask if there's any more discussion or if I can have a motion and a vote.
Discussion, I move that the board approve and adopt resolution number 1610.9/16, pupil textbooks and instructional materials aligned to the academic content standards and consistent with content and cycles of state frameworks as presented.
Second.
Okay, can I have that? Okay, it's been moved by trustee Lambert, seconded by trustee Gutierrez, that the board approve and adopt resolution number 1610.9/16, pupil textbooks and instructional materials aligned to the academic content standards and consistent with content and cycles of state frameworks as presented. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item D, board bylaw number 9222, resignation. Superintendent Rudolph, you want to
Yep,
tell us
I
a
will
little
queue
bit
us up.
about
I'm up
this?
here for the next couple ones.
Yeah.
So this one comes from CSBA. It is an amendment to a current board bylaw, 922. And so the biggest change here is that it deals with board resignations, omitting the deferred resignation timeline and stating that as soon as it hits the county office, the clock starts ticking. And so that's the biggest adjustment in this policy.
Okay, thank you. And before I ask for board comment or motion, I'll ask if any members of the public wish to address the board on this item. Seeing none, is there any motion for this?
I move that the board approve bylaw number 9222, resignation at first reading as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by trustee Lambert, seconded by trustee Gutierrez, that the board approve board bylaw number 922, resignation at its first reading
As presented.
as presented. Any discussion or questions by the board? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And I'll mention to those of you in the audience and following at home, this is the type of meeting we have where we are trying to get through a lot of bylaws that have been sent to us by CSBA. All right, Superintendent Rudolph.
All right, so here we go again. So this one is closed session purposes and agendas. Again, it is an amendment to bylaw 9321. And so two things change in this board bylaw. The first one is that it does allow you to have closed session meetings to discuss financial hardships if an employee wishes to draw, to pull their money out of an annuity account that is held by the state because of illness or illness, accident, casualty, or other extraordinary events as specified in a deferred compensation plan. The other change to this is that if a student is going through a disciplinary hearing, the student has the opportunity to make it a public hearing, and then it states the new timeline that a student has in order to exercise those rights. Basically saying that they have 5 days for an open session from this. And so it's just two updates in terms of the policies about what can be a closed session agenda item.
Thank you. Any members of the public wishing to address the board on this item? Okay, can I have a motion?
I move that the board approve bylaw 9321, closed session purposes and agendas at first reading as presented.
Second.
Thank you. And you know,
I have a question.
other board members can make motions in seconds too, instead of the Lambert Gutierrez team here.
won't
So
let
it's been
me-
moved by trustee Lambert and seconded by trustee Gutierrez that the board approve board by number 9321, closed session purposes and agendas. Is that
At first reading is
at
presented.
first reading?
That's
Where
Why
does
do
it
we
say
need to
that?
do it at first reading?
Because we're going to do a second reading.
Here we go, at first reading, yes. Probably the second reading would be during consent. There it is. All right, so questions or comments by trustees, trustee Nelson?
Yeah, I have a clarification question on the, could you pull up the first page?
Mhm.
And down near the bottom,
Mhm.
almost the last, well, it's the last paragraph now. There's a crossed out paragraph that says, the board may hold closed sessions to consider the appointment, employment, evaluation, or performance
Mhm.
of an employee.
Mhm.
That's crossed out, so we no longer can do that. Their government code 54957 is no longer applicable to school boards?
No, you still are. The difference is that this clause stated that these sessions shall not include discussion or action on proposed compensation except for the reduction of compensation that results from the imposition of discipline. And so what they're now saying is that you still can have closed session on those items, but they're now allowing you to hold a closed session item that if an employee for financial hardship wants to withdraw money from their deferred annuity account, that they're allowed to. But
No,
you're-
no, I understand the stuff
Right.
that's added, but this is crossed out.
Right.
So that
Yes.
says we can't hold a closed session to consider employment evaluation. Why, there is no other language that replaces what has been crossed out? Is that a
For-
mistake, an editing mistake?
From the state before the board, you are still allowed to have those items in there.
So we're still allowed to hold a closed session to consider the appointment, employment,
Yeah.
evaluate. Why is it crossed out? I mean,
If you look,
Where
and
is
if you
it?
look at agenda items related to district employee, so the next page,
Oh, it's
agenda
the next
items
page?
related to district employee appointments and appointments shall be described in the position field and agenda items related. So you may hold a closed session to discuss, sorry, next one. This one deals specifically with the withdrawal of money. You still are allowed to hold closed session items for those items.
oh, I see. It looks like what they've done is one of them records 957 and the other
Mhm.
references 9. It's a different part of the code.
Yeah. Yes.
So I
no.
can't understand why that part of the code has been cut out. It's strikeout means deleted. We're deleting it.
It appears here that the government code was actually updated. And so that's why we have the 0.10. And so this is just getting in line with the government code.
I'd like to move the question. Move the
All-
question.
All right. Is this all right with the makers of the motion? All right. So I'm going to ask. Yes, it's been moved by trustee Lambert, seconded by trustee Gutierrez, that the board approve board bylaw number 9321, closed session purposes and agendas at first reading as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion passes 4-1 with trustee Nelson voting no. Okay, now we're going to move on to item F, board policy number 3513.3, tobacco-free schools.
Correct. So this one is an update again for tobacco-free schools. But as you know, vapor-emitting products or devices are now more prevalent than what they were before. And so essentially, the gist of this is that any electronic device that could be used for e-cigarettes or anything else, even if the nicotine or the e-cigarette or the vapor or whatever else, whatever it is called, is not included, is still a banned or prohibited item in our schools. And so it's just a adjustment to the new landscape of electronic cigarettes, vapor machines, and everything else.
I move that the board approve policy number 3513.3, tobacco-free schools at first reading as presented.
I second the motion.
Thank you, trustee Nelson. Can I have it, please? Okay, it's been moved by trustee Gutierrez, seconded by trustee Nelson, that the board approve board policy number 3513.3, tobacco-free schools at first reading as presented. Any discussion by the board? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, item G.
All right, we just passed.
Certificate of participation amount of $40 million and impact on the Measure G budget allocation summary.
Wow, amazing that it is item G, right? I don't think we planned it that way. So we just passed the baton, so I guess you get to hear me again. So essentially, we were asking you to authorize a certificate of participation for $40 million to be used for additional funding school renovations and building a new school on the Slater campus. And then after this, it goes to the county and then comes back for a final resolution, which will be at the next board meeting.
Okay, before I have a motion, I'm going to ask if any members of the public wish to address the board on this item. Seeing none, can I have a motion before we open discussion?
I move
Go ahead, trustee Gutierrez.
to authorize the
Trustee
Talk in the
Coladonado.
microphone.
I move to authorize a certificate of participation of $40 million to be used for funding school renovations and building a new school on the Slater campus.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved by trustee Coladonado, seconded by trustee Lambert, that the board approve authorizing a certificate of participation of $40 million to be used for funding school renovations and building a new school on the Slater campus. Any discussion or questions by the board? Trustee Nelson?
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get hammered by some commenters on how much money we're overspending and over borrowing.
Excuse, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's an interesting thing in the Mercury News today. I'm a Luddite, I still get paper. It says UCI's policy on debt because there's issues of whether UC is exceeding their limit that they should have and stuff. And it's interesting. There's an interesting item here. It talks about big debts aren't necessarily bad in this case, for universities. But the other thing it's talking about bond ratings, and UC had degraded their bond rating from whatever it was to AA2, the third highest rating, while we have AAA. And it says this has a negligible effect on the university's borrowing costs because the interest rates are so low. The agency's outlook for the university is stable. So even an organization like UC that doesn't have as high a rating as we do, people who look at issues of borrowing, and we're going to be able to borrow at a AAA rating, borrowing rates are as low as they're probably ever going to be.
Mhm.
And that's what we're going in at.
Thank
Would
you.
you say that's right, Mr. Chief Business Officer?
Well, yes, we're
Never
going to
mind.
capitalize on our AAA rating. What the interest rate is it's up to when we finally close.
Thank
We'll
you.
get better in these
Other
things.
questions or comments, trustee Coladonado?
Maybe this is for Dr. Clark. 198 million was the most we could borrow at the time we did Measure G, correct? That capped out.
Correct. That was our bond capacity.
That was the bond capacity. So, while it probably would be ideal if we could do all the construction with a bond instead of doing a COP, we hadn't even decided about Slater back then. And even if we had, it would have been probably tough to fit it in to the 198. So, this isn't my ideal financing structure, but I commend staff for figuring out a way to get it all done. And also the prior superintendent who mentioned this a couple years ago said we could, get money from this lease and that lease and do this new school. I think that was a visionary way to think about it, and that's what we're going to do today.
Thank you. Any comments or questions by trustee Gutierrez or Lampert?
No.
Ready to vote.
All right, and I am ready to vote too, other than saying I'm extremely enthusiastic about this. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And before we end this item, I'll note that the board received a number of community comments in favor of this certificate of participation as well. All right, we move on to item 10, review and discussion. Does anybody want to break?
Let's just power
Through. Let's
right?
power
Get
through.
home, yeah.
We don't have pneumonia, but we can power through.
Aw.
Okay, item 10, review and discussion, update and timeline for student attendance task force.
Correct. So we know that we are moving forward with Slater Elementary School, which of course means that there are other impacts. And so I wanted to take this time to review how we're going to address boundaries and what the process is moving forward. So it's sort of how we envision this playing out. So as you know, we have the Students Attendance Area Task Force, SAATF, and they had their first meeting of this year yesterday, along with the Specific Learners Task Force, who was right next door at Therakoff. At this time, we are asking the SAATF to come up with 4 different scenarios. They're divided into 4 different groups. There are about 25 individuals that are part of the team, representing every single school or area of our community. And it is a mix of, there are principals who sit on this, who are here. There are a couple board members. There are former board members. There are board candidates. There are parents. There's a real estate person. There are teachers. So it's a pretty good mix of individuals. And so what we've asked them to do is over the next 3 meetings to work on delivering a proposed boundary. And that they, on the November 9th meeting, when we end, the 4 groups will actually submit a boundary. And then what we will do from there is we will have 5 communities out the city at different corners. So we want to hit north, south, east, west, as well as the central. And the 5 members of cabinet or executive team will host those meetings to solicit feedback from the community. At the same time, we will then have a board presentation at the November 17th meeting. We will ask the board to weigh in on what, how they feel, give or provide feedback to the actual boundaries that are being worked on. They will then take all of that, codify it, and we will then take it back to the Students Attendance Area Task Force, and we will ask them to take all the feedback into consideration and then working on the boundaries once again. They will have 4 meetings, including the December 14th meeting, to actually rework boundaries. And then at the same time, they will reduce the number of options from 4 to 2. Those 2 will then go through a similar process of where we will ask the community to weigh in and look at it. We will take it to principals, look at it at executive team. We will talk with the demographers about it. And then we will bring a recommendation based off of the 2 final ones to the board. And the board will receive that on April 4th with the goal of actually having a vote a month later on May 4th. And it's important to get this part of the conversation done because the second part is A, to communicate the actual boundaries, but B, to start having the board of trustees to look at how do they want to address the current student placement policy. And then in the background, as we're actually designing the school, building it, looking at all the issues that come with that, we'll also look at the staffing. So once we have boundaries set, we'll be able to determine how many kids are actually going to populate the school in the 2019-2020 school year. And then we'll be able to start working on the staffing, and we'll have to look at our own internal policies of how we place teachers, how do we move, how do we do transfers or involuntary transfers. We will then set a timeline for how we hire a principal, and we'll put all of that in motion so that by the time we get close to the 2019 school year, we'll be ready to go and ramp into the school. With all likelihood of hiring a principal a couple months early to get the school up and running and make sure. And it is a very tight timeline, considering that these next couple of years will run pretty fast. So this is the process that I envision that we will take forward to the Students Attendance Task Force. And I welcome any feedback that you have, or if there's a question or a concern, so that we can make some type of adjustments if needed.
Thank you. I'm going to open this up to members of the public before I open it up to the board. So are there any members of the public wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing none, and I'll note this is just a discussion item, not an action item. Raise your hand if you have a comment or a question. Okay, so we have 3 of us. So I'd ask for 1-minute comments or questions, and then if we want to go around again, that's all right. So Trustee Nelson?
Yeah. Part of the problem I see with this, and there was a problem in Palo Alto. There was a problem when we did this once before, a couple of years ago, and decided to use nothing, is that the groups said there was no direction for the board. In other words, the board didn't provide leadership on what the public policy should be of what's the priorities or how we want the boundaries set. So that's probably what my 1 minute, and I will like 3 minutes after that, because I think we need, as a board, to provide leadership on what we want the administration and this group that's advising the administration to take as the top priorities. I have 2 in mind, but
Okay.
that's what
Trustee
I'm worried about.
Coladerato?
So it's true that a year ago, we didn't adopt any of a year and a half ago, didn't adopt any of the BATF's recommendations. And like Trustee Nelson alluded to, it was, in my opinion, it was because the direction given by staff was not the same direction I would have given, and it led to recommendations that weren't that good, I think. Could you tell us about the recommendations or the constraints or direction you've given the SAATF? Because
Yes.
if that's what we would have given them, then we don't have to do anything else. You already did it, but
Yeah.
you know.
So the first, and this is probably the biggest one, so looking at the BATF, one of the first things I told them is that it is not their job to focus on closing any schools. They are not to propose any scenarios where one school is to be closed over another. I think at that time, they were working under the constraint of Slater or no Slater. That question has actually been answered. And so that's a clear decision-making point. So it's not on them to make a recommendation to the board or trustees to talk about whether or not we should close a school. We already know the answer to that. We will have another school in this quadrant. The second one is that the board was very clear about the range of the schools. Our goal is to get every school around 450, but the board was also very clear that 450 is a very artificial number and that it is possible that we will go over or that we will be a little bit under. And so the main concern is to make sure that each one of the neighborhood schools is a viable neighborhood school that can continue to thrive and that won't be forced or that won't be placed in a position where we will have to look at a closure. And so that's a very important part. At one point, we did consider looking at middle schools and then looking at the forecast of what's coming in the future. There's really no point in looking at how we balance middle schools. We believe that Crittenden's enrollment will continue to increase and that it will catch up with Graham. And so I actually took that one off the table yesterday. There's another one about, there is a sentiment about neighborhood schools and how that looks. And so what we also, or another constraint that I placed on the committee is to consider for schools to not, or elementary students to not cross major thoroughfares. And if we look at the old boundaries from 2004 to 2005, you will see that actually no school ever crossed the two major roads, which would have been Central and which would have been El Camino. But recognizing that there are some roads that are a little bit more populous now than what they were 10 or 13 years ago. So Shoreline is a good example of that. It's hard to say that Shoreline is going to be an artificial boundary for a school because now we know it's kind of hard just because of the amount of growth that's going to occur there. So they're looking at, within all reason, not crossing major thoroughfares. And at the same time, we know there's a triangle over by Americana and Hearthstone that they're sort of cut off by the 101 and
85,
sorry. Thank you. And there's no choice. There's no way to get around that whole Sylvan area as well as there. They have to cross or use a major thoroughfare to actually get there. And then I also informed them not to focus on policy. There's a large conversation about placement and how we place students and the priorities. And I informed them that that's not their job. Their job is to present a series of boundaries to the board to consider. And then the Board of Trustees will then look at placement policies and have a hearty discussion about what priorities should stay and which priorities should go. And so we wanted to, my goal was to help the SAATF to remove the political element out of it and to focus just on the thing that we care about the most, which is, can we create neighborhood boundaries for these neighborhood schools that are viable and that will continue to allow the groups to grow, or the schools to grow.
Thank you. So
Thank
my question is, hearing this timeline, it seems obvious that when we do registration in January, is it we're doing it? The children who are registering in January will be registering under old boundaries. Is that correct?
Correct.
So they'll be the last year of students going to schools with old boundaries.
So that would be the
17, 18.
17, 18. Then you will have 18, 19 also.
So 18, 19 is still going to use the old boundaries?
Correct.
Because the school isn't opened yet.
The school won't, we won't finish building that school until probably August 1 of, a little bit sooner, July 31st of 2019. It's going to be close. Once we finally get the preschool out of there, and we'll be able to start construction and we'll move as quickly as possible. But it will be 2 more years of placing kids. And I'll be upfront, that's a conversation that the board is going to have to tackle, because you are going to send a group of kids to a school and then you're going to turn around the next year and you're going to say, here are the new placement policies. We are going to do a very thorough job of communicating the new boundaries and its impact over the course of 2 years so that people know that, yes, it is possible that I'm going to this school, but we don't know what its impact is going to be. And by finishing the policy placements or the placement policies, we will be able to then spend one more year communicating the impact of the placement policies so that parents are acutely aware that something may happen. They may or may not be grandfathered in.
Thank you. Trustee Lambert or Trustee Gutierrez?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Trustee Nelson?
Yeah.
You wanted to make
Uh-huh.
an additional comment?
Yeah, and I'd like
I
3
had
minutes.
said 1 minute, so.
I would like
um,
3
so-
minutes.
Excuse me. So are the other trustees all right about an additional 3 minutes at this time? We're already, we have more time for this item. So are you all right with a 3-minute comment at this time?
3 minutes, yes.
Fine with
Okay.
me, sure.
Okay, so 3 minutes, Ms. Lilga?
That thing still doesn't program? I can't see it anyway.
I'll start with one.
Yeah, there's an issue of, I hope you go back and look at the video, if we still have it, on the demographers who talked about how our district is divided up. Because she was pretty clear, Jamie, that we really can't do this if we just arbitrarily say, you can't go across El Camino. If we arbitrarily say, you can't go across Central. And if you arbitrarily say you can't go across Shoreline and its continuation, Miramonte, because then you get really, it's impossible to do. Because there is the area over near Los Altos in the far southwest corner of the district cannot go to any school because they will have to cross Miramonte, which is a 4-lane big street, or they would have to cross El Camino, which is a 4-lane big street. And you would cut off Castro City from, well, I guess it is, you could still send it to, you cut off Castro City from going anywhere because they would have to go across Ringstor or El Camino, or Central in the railroad tracks. So I think we should, there's a question about giving direction to staff. There's this issue about distance from the school. The issue of distance from the school is something that happened before I got on the board about saying Castro City, if you know where that is, it's near Ringsdorf Park, is very close to Mauna Loma. And to balance things off, it's okay to go across a crossing that's controlled or having a crossing guard there. There's the issue of, there's an area of single family homes that are very close to Castro that get moved 2 miles over to Bub. And if you looked at the distance, you would say they're much closer to Castro. So I think we should give direction to the staff that they should start off with distance from the school as the criteria that's used. And there's this other question, I don't see her right now, but when Gloria Higgins was on the board, the statement of the elephant in the room is segregation. We have the problem of highly segregated schools by economics. And I think we should face that elephant and get out our elephant gun and say the other priority for public policy that we're giving direction for is towards equity of economic diversity, like plus or minus 15% or whatever it can be pushed towards. So we don't have very poor schools and very well-off schools. And that
So
we put
Trustee
the
Nelson,
boundaries.
Trustee Nelson, your 3 minutes are up. Trustee
to go ahead.
Coladonado?
You can start the timer. Dr. Rudolph, you had said time is of the essence because we have a bunch of different, make these decisions and we got to do other work. If on November 17th, the board gets 4 new maps and the board likes one of them a lot more than the other 3, could the board just enact that one then? And then we're 5 months ahead of schedule?
Technically, yes. The
Okay.
board can say, this is the the boundary that we like, and let's move with all due diligence and speed to enact that one. Yes.
Do you think that that would be, if it, and by the way, maybe maybe they're pretty similar. Maybe we get 4 things that are pretty close and the board says, you know, I don't even see a lot of difference, and why don't we just get this over with? That wouldn't be a bad thing, would it?
I don't think so. I think what you'll see, 2 teams were able to create boundaries, and they were similar, but they were substantively different, right? Because each team looked at the task a little bit differently. I would argue that I think the Students Attendance Area Task Force would appreciate if you sent back feedback to them and said, sorry, speech impediments coming in. We would really prefer that these particular boundaries, could you come back with an adjustment that favors the one that you like, and allow them the opportunity to sort of make an adjustment. I think I saw 2 pretty creative proposals about boundaries, and I think the team is just working very hard. And I think it gives the community a little bit more time to weigh in. But at the end of the day, if you find one that is excellent and that is ready to go, the board has the right at any time to simply say,
let's do this.
Let's do this.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm going to make a comment, and then Trustee Lambert has a comment. So my comment is, I really like the structure of the committee meetings, and then community meetings and meetings with the board. My sense is that if the board came out at the very first hearing and said, this is the one we like, let's go ahead, the community would feel shortchanged, because the community hasn't had its, its community sessions about this. So, and especially hearing that, this is going to be a 2-year-long process, and it's not going to be affecting anybody's school choice for another, 1 or 2 years. I don't see any reason to speed this up. So I agree that, definitely the board giving some direction to the committee is a good idea, but I think the process should be followed through. Trustee Lambert.
My comments are similar. I think it's very important to have very public and open process, and many opportunities for the public to weigh in. I also, I think it worked very well when we were going through construction options to see various plans, and sort of was easier to see the trade-offs where they way, and things became more clear that way. So having options presented, and not only to us but also to the public, I think helps part of the conversation. It helps stimulate the conversation. So I think it's a very important thing to do, to provide options for everybody to see, have a lot of public input.
Trustee Gutierrez, any?
No,
comment?
I agree, because I think in this case, what we need is to reestablish that partnership with the community in general. We need to reestablish that trust so that we can look at it for what it is, right? And in the end, once the decision's made, we've had full participation from both sides, especially from the task force. And once we come to a vote, then everyone will know why.
I had a comment on
okay,
Greg's comment.
So
A minute.
1 minute.
Okay. Yeah, I don't sort of like Greg's thing, because this December 12th community meeting things is important. It's a wider community. It's anybody who wasn't on the committee. But there's another way to do this. On the time when it's first presented, what we have had problems acting as a board that gives leadership. One of the ways you do that is you do votes, and you can do prioritization votes, like 5 want this. And I would really like to see that November 17th be a presentation, discussion, presentation, and first action. In other words, you can take the action, say, we don't like these. These are the 2 we like. We don't like this other one. If you just have 5 members talking, it does not give clear direction, and it does not show leadership. this board has had problems showing leadership, as the district quality report shows. So I'd like that to be first action, and then there'll be second action on December 14th.
So I'm going to take another minute also, and we're in a special situation here regarding an electoral timeline. And we have at least 2 members of our board going off the board within a couple of weeks. And I think the community, because it's having an opportunity to have an election and choose new board members and possibly even a new majority of the board, I think the community would like to see action, most of the action by the new board and not a last gasp of
lame duck, yeah.
of an old board. So I would not like
Quack.
the old, and I understand I'm in a different situation than you, Trustee Nelson, on this issue, on this situation. But so lame
That's
duck
a
is
good
a
point.
good,
That's a good point.
yeah.
I didn't think of that.
Well,
And I do want to point out that this process was actually designed with that in mind. It was designed to give both boards, the outgoing board who has the historical context and who, because with the exception of Trustee Gutierrez Jr., 2 of you were there when the BATF recommendations were.
rejected.
Yeah, thank you.
Not adopted.
Not accepted. And so you have insight that the new board may not have. And so it allows the outgoing board the opportunity to weigh in and provide direction based off of historical precedents and experience, and then allow the new board the opportunity to weigh in with the final decision, because that is the actual board
Yeah.
that will be in place, or for the most part, that will be the board that's going to be there when this actually rolls out.
Well, we have time. This, I hope, will be a discussion item.
The 17th?
I hope the board will have it as a discussion. Well, maybe I need to put it on the agenda, that we have this as another board discussion item.
Have
This
what
thing,
is the board discussion item?
the kind of, this process.
You want
I agree,
this
maybe
process
the,
to be a board
maybe the second action needs to be further in January or February stuff, but the issue of having 4 things and not giving clear direction is what this board is infamous for.
I think we're infamous for other things, with all due respect.
Well,
If at the November 17th.
but we
you-
can talk
you
about
have-
what I'd like to
Right,
do
at the
is
December,
talk about.
at the November 17th meeting, if the board feels, hey, these are the items that we're looking for, please take this back to the task force, you're more than welcome to provide that and allow them the opportunity to come up with 4 options based off of the feedback that you give them. And I think that's a large part of the reason why we want to make sure that the community as well as the
Oh,
board
absolutely.
has feedback. So then you will be able to guide them, because right after that, they then have to narrow their options down from 4 to 2. And I think that's going to be a hard process as it is. But the feedback you give will definitely guide and drive the work that they do.
Where does it say 4 to 2 anywhere? I don't see that.
So if you look at phase 2, they will have 3 meetings. And if you look at on March 8th, they will decide between the 2 final recommendations. So they're going to reduce the number of working options. They're going to decide between what the final 2, and then those will go out to Decision Insight for demographic data. We'll hold feedback sessions
So you're, okay,
in March,
let me,
and then April
let's
4th.
make it clear.
Your minute's
Is
up, right?
You're saying that this committee is going to make the final decision and not the Board of Education? Or
No,
what are you
You're
saying?
misunderstanding.
I'm
saying-
misunderstanding.
I'm saying that there are 4 working committees within this task force. They will present 4 different options that will be presented to the board as well as the community. They will gather that feedback and they will work to make adjustments.
No, okay, I just
Okay.
talking about the March 8th,
Right.
4th, 3rd
So-
bullet point.
So
It
then
says decide between the final two recommendations.
Correct.
So the board isn't making that decision.
No, so they will have 4 options.
Okay, okay,
Just,
that's
just,
all.
just real quick, they'll have 4 options and they're going to pare it down to 2 options. Those 2 options will then be brought to the board and the board will make the decision on what the option is.
I'm going to be out of here by then. I
That's
think you're
true.
going to get a
So
lot of
let's just move
saying
on.
about it's taking too long to the board to make decision in their, but that's my comment to you guys is I think the direction ought to be clearer earlier.
So I would like to make one more comment, which is whenever the board in a public meeting makes a recommendation, it needs to make a recommendation as a majority of the board
Correct.
and not just as a single board member. So
Right.
when we go through this process, I hope we all remember that.
We have given what you're saying is we have given
Can
no
we move to
clear
the next
direction
item?
to the administration.
We'll
Right.
move to the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, I would
tonight.
like to move us on to the next item, which is item 11, board updates. It is 8:45, so if you have a live update that you'd like to share, now is the time for you to make that update. And we'll start with you, trustee Nelson.
I had 4 things and of course I printed it out and didn't bring it. But one of them was, the first one was I volunteered for CHAC, which is the organization that we are in a joint powers authority agreement with to do their volunteer fundraiser stuff as I have for about the last 3 years at the Art and Wine Festival. And the second thing was, it happened to be, there was a
September
parent
11th.
from Landals on the, that I was paired with. And so I had about a 2-hour educational discussion with one of the parents from Landals who had various questions and observations and about his school and about the district in general. So that was interesting. The third one was I went to, and I'll send this to you. Yeah, the third one was I went to the wonderful Rocket Day finally at Stevenson and saw a great bunch of pumped rockets go out. It was infused with enthusiasm, both from the, it was fun for the kids, but it was also fun for a lot of the adults. It's just a fun thing to do. And the last one was something I'd forgotten before. I went to the Mauna Loma ice cream social, which had, besides Ellen, it had a number of the trustees, a number of the candidates for, I see back to the candidates who were at the ice cream social. And also there was lots of city council candidates and Representative Ashu. And I don't, it was interesting. That's a great thing that happens in Bill's neighborhood backyard.
Trustee Coladonado.
I am not going to read out the 9 things that I am going to send to Kathy, but I will mention that one of the things that we do at Stevenson that actually I volunteered to be in charge of this year is something we do once a month called positive picketing. So 13 days ago, I got to school early and had a big box of stuff, little signs and tape and sticks. And as kids got out of the car, we'd have them write something positive on one of these signs and then excitedly harass everyone getting out of their cars with love and joy for to have a great day. And by the end of it, we had 50 kids in this huge mob just showering attention on everyone as they were showing up. And it's called Positive Picketing, and it's part of Project Cornerstone. It's kind of an offshoot of Project Cornerstone. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Thanks for telling us about
Sure.
it. And before I mention my items, and I did send in my report to Ms. Loga, I'll note that actually all 4 of our trustee candidates were at that Mauna Loma ice cream social. So I'm going to elaborate on things that are in my written report because I think these are worth celebrating. One is, as you know, I'm a member of Strong Start, which is the countywide coalition of people who work on early childhood education. And at our last meeting this week, we had a presentation on the quality review system used by First Five for childcare and preschools in the county. And the reason I mentioned this specifically is it gave me some really good context for our preschool report, which we have heard, you know, that we have scores of 5s and 4s. Well, the number of preschool centers in the county that have scores of 5 is 14. In the whole county, there are 14 that achieve a score of 5, and 2 of those are ours. So one is the preschool at Torkoff, another is the preschool at Castro. So I think that's to be celebrated. And then there are 2,500 of these sites in Santa Clara County. The ones who are tier 4, which is the gold medal, we have one of them, which is the one at Slater. And out of 2,600 sites, there are only 63 in the county that have been rated as tier 4. So, you know, I think that's even more, you know, great context for the great work that our preschools are doing. Another is, it is voter time in our city, in our state, in our country. And I'll note that on page 12 of this week's Mountain View Voice, there's an article called Voter Information Events. And there's a list, a bulleted list of all the candidate information forum dates and sites run by the League of Women Voters for races that are local to us. So one is, there's a city council forum for Mountain View City Council this Wednesday, the 24th, from 4 to 5:15 at Google. Another is, they've got one for Los Altos City Council.
Did you say September 24th?
I'm sorry, to 21st at 4 o'clock. Wednesday, September 21st at 4 o'clock. Candidate Forum Los Altos City Council. They have pros and cons measures, including one that's not by the league, but by somebody else. We have our forum on 2 rent control measures, measures V and W, on Thursday, September 29th from 6:30 to 8 at the Mountain View Senior Center. And candidate forum for the Mountain View Wissman School District, Monday, October 3rd, 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the Mountain View Library. So, and I will note that these forums will be videoed by KMVT. So if you are unable to attend a live forum, and we hope everyone shows up live, but if you cannot attend a live forum, then these will be on loops on KMVT, so you can learn more and more and more about your city council candidates and your school district candidates. And before I end here, we have 2 other candidate races that are related to education in our county that we should all be paying attention to. One is Santa Clara County Board of Education. Our area in the North County has an election. There are 2 people running for 1 spot. And that forum is on, let's see, October 13th at the Los Altos Library. And the one for the Santa Clara County Board of Education is at 6:30. And then there's another one at 7:15 at the same site. There's a race for Foothill De Anza College District. There's 3 seats up with 5 candidates. So, you know, it's on such a crowded ballot. It's kind of hard to see all these, you know, small elections, but encourage everybody to, you know, pay attention to these smaller races because they're important.
What
No
makes them
update.
smaller? Why smaller races?
Right,
Yeah.
smaller than
What?
than the
President.
Yeah, the state, the Senate, yeah. So trustee Lambert?
No update.
Okay.
I'll email my updates to Ms. Loga. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, so where's my agenda? All right, so we've got items for future agendas, and I will note that I sent trustee Nelson an email earlier in the week explaining that just as we are not going to have a board retreat with this board because we're going to have almost an entirely new board, so we want to spend our money wisely on our experts. So we're going to wait and do that retreat. We're going to wait and do our presentation on parcel tax with our parcel tax attorney and our parcel tax consultant until we have the new board.
Ellen, I
on
didn't
the
get that
board.
email.
Okay, I sent it to you at your district email address about 2 days ago. So take a look at your email. I'll resend
Sometimes
it
it
to you.
takes days to get through my email.
Okay.
Um,
So
I-
let me finish what I was going to say, trustee Nelson. So what I said in my email is because we're going to postpone that parcel tax presentation, you had at our last board meeting of last year in June, you had requested an agenda item to talk about the recommended parcel tax. And you never got to make your case to us about, to put that on the agenda. So in that email, I said to you, if you'd like to make your case at this meeting, you can do that. If you would like to wait because you might feel like you're not prepared tonight.
No,
you
I'm
could
not
do it.
prepared tonight,
Okay,
but
so
if you
could
put it
do
at a future meeting.
Excuse me,
Uh-huh.
you could do it at the next meeting in the first meeting in October. So
Oh, okay.
you would have 3 minutes during items for future agendas.
3 minutes isn't enough, Ellen.
Well, that's
That's our board protocol.
Check 9220.
No. If
Let's
You-
let's do
Yeah.
a protocol there.
I'll
Let's
read
not
this.
This is
argue about
not,
the
this is
protocol
not a
again.
discussion right now.
No.
Right.
now.
If necessary, well,
Okay. So
I don't know what order we're going in. What order are
okay,
we
so
going in?
now we're going on to, is there anyone wishing to suggest a different item for future agendas?
What's suggested?
So,
Then the one you guys were just arguing about.
yeah,
Me.
so trustee Coladonado.
One sentence.
Yes.
At the challenge team meeting last week, staff presented the results of how our summer school worked. And one of the issues that we faced was that it's sometimes hard to get enough teachers to teach for summer school. And we've talked about it in the past, but not very thoroughly. I'd like to give a 3-minute pitch next time about offering a year-round teacher, a way for a teacher to commit to not just the normal school year, but to the summer all at once, well in advance, so that it's much easier to know how we're going to staff summer school.
Okay, so
Okay.
do you
So
have
I can,
that?
I can give a sentence
I give
to
the sentence to Ms. Loga
Ms.
and then
Loga
you
after
could,
the
you
fact.
could make your minute,
next time.
presentation next time. Okay.
Separate one. I don't believe the board has ever, I don't remember the board ever expressing any direction for what to do with the $3 million we get in the shoreline, $3 million of shoreline revenue we get each year. And I'd like to see it spent on STEM type, it has language in it. It comes with strings attached that are like preparing our students for the high-tech careers of the shoreline community. I'd like the board to at least find out what staff's plans with the money is, or give direction to staff about how we'd like to see that turned into science programs.
So you're talking a discussion item of the board.
These are always
These
just
are all
discussion items.
3
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have a third one too.
Okay, so what's your third one?
Third one is
Yeah, hold on, and you
okay.
will send your one sentence. to
I will
Ms. Loga
send,
again also?
similar to the first
Okay.
bullet item, I will send
Okay.
a sentence for that
Okay.
to Ms. Loga as well. And also for this third one. I met someone, I was talking to someone from the East Bay about how we don't have very many school buses in our district. We don't take that many kids around on school buses. We take some, but a very small minority of our students. And he said, oh, our transit agency over in Berkeley drives around and picks up the kids that are going to private school and it takes them to school. It's, it's great. They get money, the transit agency gets paid and the kids get to school. And I'm going to find out more about that and find out if it's something that we could look into trying to set up with VTA. And because we have some really bad traffic. And like if a bunch of kids could pile on a bus that are all going towards their school.
One second.
There was a semicolon or two in it.
Okay, so, and you'll send a one sentence thing to Ms. Olga about that.
Exactly.
Okay, and there's no guarantee that all of these would be on the next meeting. They'd be on a future meeting, but soon.
I will not lose my cool
Thank you.
if that were to transpire.
Okay.
Or hold your
Trustee
breath.
Lambert or Trustee Gutierrez?
No items.
Okay, Trustee Nelson, you have anything else you want to suggest?
Yeah, this could be a presentation item, or it could just be something that was done by the staff if in the next discussion. It's to an internal report or presentation on the state testing with gender disaggregated for economically disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged students.
Okay, so you'll send that 1 minute to one sentence request to Ms. Olga, and you'll make your 3-minute presentation at a future board meeting?
Yes, and just for information, here is some background information on what went on with the Cooper site since the year 2000. So those are
One for each board member.
one for each board member, and majority of board members are getting it.
You're a board member. There you go.
That's for the secretary of the board.
So many different
What?
fonts.
Thank you.
This is just the material I'm submitting to you.
Okay.
In case the Cooper thing ever comes up, you'll have some background
Oh, it'll
material.
come up.
Okay. So, future board meeting dates, are these all correct, Ms. Olga? Okay, so we will adjourn at, you said what time you're going to end tonight, Greg, at 9:02.
Excellent.
Is that what your guess was?
No, I didn't say. I didn't want to stay here till 10 o'clock though. We didn't have to.
No, I knew it was going to be a short one. In some cases, it's maybe better not to
You
put.
definitely tried to make it not as short as it could have
Well,
been.
sometimes if you don't estimate when a certain thing's going to happen, maybe it's better because, it's
Dr. Clark, Trustee Nelson asked you a question in the meeting. He said, aren't rates as low as they're ever going to be? So I think he was asking